Just like that, Australia have wasted a golden opportunity to seal those ashes in 3 tests, going down at dreaded Headingley, another nightmare defeat at that ground, the second time in a row. This one a little bit different though, compared to the Ben Stokes one of 4 years ago, but ultimately leaves a pretty sour taste in the mouth, to be honest. First of all, you want to say congratulations to England. They played well in this test match and they fought back well from the hole that they were in on day 2. I thought the addition of Mark Wood was always going to be a game changer. Chris Wokes hit the winning runs. He played well, bowled well, took wickets in both innings. Australia treated him like Sir Vivian Richards and AB de Villiers there at times, putting the field back to him straight away. I'll get to that in a sec. But also credit to Harry Brook. Harry Brook as well. He played well and nearly got England home there, but got them in a good position to win that. So that being said, Australia genuinely blew that test match. And to be honest with you, and you can look back at my videos from earlier in the series on the podcast, I believe this has been coming. The talk of 5-0, completely premature, and also, frankly, almost impossible. When the tactic from Australia is to mostly rely on England mistakes, England errors, take wickets against the run of play, sit back, even against the new batsmen, let them get settled, and then hope they make a mistake and then pounce that way. The law of averages suggests that you're always going to come up short at some stage when you have that sort of tactic, when you're not proactive enough. Pat Cummins, despite the defensive fields, I think he's held his nerve quite well throughout most of the series. And they've played the smarter cricket throughout the series, Australia, although that's not been too difficult with the way England have played throughout this series. Let's be real. But the ultra defensive final day left a lot to be desired. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I mean, I was very worried from the first over itself. 5 very easy singles to Crawley and to Duckett. Now, with all due respect to those two, they're good players, but they're far from established at test level. I think there has to be a little bit of a mindset change from Australia to try build some pressure with the skillful bowling attack that the team does have against the New England players. You want to build a little bit of pressure against them early, but rather we give them the deep point, deep mid wicket. Mate, there was no fielders in shot throughout parts of the day. Everyone's out on the boundary, even into the lower order batsmen. That's a bit of a concern. Like England, they're smart enough. They'll look at that and they'll say, Australia very willing to be defensive here. We can still score very quickly if we just play the percentages. Now, I know they've got the Bazball style of play and they're slaves to that Bazball style of play at times. But Australia willing to be very defensive. You can use that to your advantage. And I thought England did that very well today. There was never a period at all, I felt, throughout this whole day's play where Australia built any sort of meaningful pressure. England were always scoring freely. There weren't enough catches in front of the wicket in particular. Another thing I don't understand with Australia is when it's almost like they forget that there's a second half of the pitch when numbers 8 and down walk to the crease. So when number 8 walks in, number 9, it's got to be short or nothing and put everyone back. As I said before, Chris Wokes is a very solid bat, but he does not warrant everyone on the boundary after 10, 15 balls in his innings. What's wrong with the top of off stump? What's wrong with your good length? Top of off stump, catches in place. It works for the top 6 and the top 7. But when the lower order comes in, that goes completely out of the window. It ties in closely with, I think, 3 periods where Australia let this game slip. I'll go back to day 2, post-lunch. England were on the ropes. They were in the mud. They're staring an Ashes defeat in the face. An embarrassing one at that. Started to feed Mark Wood lots of short stuff. And he hit 24 off 8 balls. It sort of lit the fire in Ben Stokes, lit the fire in the crowd and turned the momentum of the game. All of a sudden, Australia with a lead that should have been close to 100, they finished with a lead of 26. They completely let the momentum slip. It's another episode in this series where the Aussies have just let things slip instead of taking control quickly. That's probably another little criticism of Pat Cummins is lets things drift. Lets things drift a little bit. Makes decisions 15, 20 minutes too late. And don't get me wrong, his record in Test cricket is excellent when you look at the raw numbers. But if you're not going to be proactive enough in Test cricket, it would catch up to you. And it did in this Headingley Test match. Another key period where Australia let the game slip the same day, this time with the bat. Still had that 26-run lead, 1 for 60 odd. I thought Marnus was looking the best that he'd looked in the series. He slog sweeps a delivery to deep mid wicket out of nowhere. An unforced mistake. And that again just puts England back in the Test match. Australia had the foot on the throat there and just lifted it and puts England back in the Test match. To add salt to the wounds, Steve Smith, our best player, chips one straight to mid wicket off Moeen Ali again. And I heard Atherton on commentary afterwards saying that the players that came in, including Moeen, contributed with those 2 wickets of Marnus and Smith, but really soft stuff. Really soft. And again, that period there, Australia, I think, got to be more ruthless. When you had England on the ropes like that after a brilliant Mitch Marsh 100, brilliant batting by Travis Head, an excellent first session on day 2, to let England back in like that on day 2 was really disappointing. And then that leads in today. Travis Head did his best yesterday in tough circumstances to get us to 250. It was always touch and go whether that would be enough. I think it was always going to come down to how well you could build pressure today. Because this England side, they need to feel bad on ball and they need to get going. But one thing I don't understand is why do you make it easy for them to get off the mark? Why do you make it easy for them to get into their innings? Every single player has got easy singles and 2s on offer if they want it. Makes no sense. The hardest time for a player, any player, no matter how good they are, is when they come in on 0. And particularly this England side, if they're 0 off 5 balls, 0 off 6 balls, the pressure's going to build because it's against their baseball style of play. They need to get moving. So you'd rather try, in my opinion, get them to hit through the gap. Get them to play a good shot for 4. If they hit you for 4 through the field, they played a good shot against you, fair play to them. You're giving them easy singles to point. And I think England have got to be smart enough to realise that Australia are willing to sit back. And I thought England played it quite well today for the most part, particularly Brooke. And I thought Crawley did it quite well as well. They just played the percentages and just rotated strike throughout the day. It was like a one-day international game. England chased the target in 50 overs and Australia set fields all day as if it were an ODI. The ODI World Cup started a few months early for Australia, the way they set their fields. Chris Wokes popped up a few deliveries early in his innings, but no one was even in the TV picture. No one was there to catch it. It's quite remarkable. You need to get wickets to win the game. Now, you'd rather lose the game trying to get wickets than let England accumulate and get easy singles in the occasional boundary to the target. It's quite strange. I'll finish off this point as well. I've been talking about the field placements and sort of Cummins' approach and Australia's approach, but I thought the treatment of Todd Murphy today was quite diabolical. I tweeted about it throughout the play. Mark Taylor, he was talking about it quite passionately on commentary that the first session, it just needed a bit of a change in pace. So England were just starting to get away a little bit. And it just needed a bit of a change in pace. Try the spinner to the left-hander at the time. Ben Stokes was in it at that stage. And there was about 130, 140 to win. And the risk was always you're going to try bowl Todd Murphy when there's not enough runs left. Now, he bowled in 1 over before lunch and then 1 over when there was 30 left to win. I thought given Scott Boland's ineffectiveness, the amount of overs Mitchell Starc had to bowl, Cummins himself had to bowl, I thought there was an opportunity at times there to try Todd Murphy, give him an attacking field and encourage England to go over the top. They're the ones that are 2-0 down in this series. If you encourage them to play the big shots and it goes wrong for them, that's the pressure they've got to deal with. But I thought if you're not going to, bowl Todd Murphy when the game's there to be won, why pick him? I hope this doesn't knock the confidence of Murphy, who I rate very highly. You don't go to India and perform that well straight away when you don't have talent. But he should have been bowling when there were 130 left to win, not 30. again, yeah, some decisions that were quite mystifying. Made it very easy for England, I felt, to chase this target. With these tactics, you're going to need 350 on the ball to feel safe at least, rather than 250. In the end, we felt that Australia were a little bit short in their second innings, maybe 30, 40 runs short. It proved to be the case. So England 2-1 now, off to Old Trafford. And look, this series is well and truly alive. Not since the 1930s has a team come from 2-0 down to win the Ashes. There's still a fair way to go before that happens, but Australia are going to have to lift their game. We're going to need more from Marnus with the bat, more from Smith, um, more from Warner, of course, as well, but particularly more proactiveness from Cummins, the captain, and the think tank in the Aussie team. Because if you keep giving England leg ups and you keep trying to rely on their mistakes, I think it'll eventually catch up on you. So, anyway, it is what it is. Congrats to England. Another brilliant test match. Off to Manchester for the fourth.